Welcome to the Invested Dads Podcast, simplifying financial topics so that you can take action and make your financial situation better. Helping you to understand the current world of financial planning and investments, here are your hosts, Josh Robb and Austin Wilson.
All right. Hey, welcome back to the Invested Dads Podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about one of my favorite topics. So I kind of consider myself relatively tech-savvy. And so the topic we're going to be talking about today is the Internet of Things. Josh, what is the Internet of Things?
Well, if you ask my grandma, she would probably think you're talking about Amazon. Yeah, that's where I get my things on the Internet. That's where I order them. But no, the Internet of Things, high level, it's the connectedness of things or people on the Internet. So the Internet of Things, high level, is the communication between items or people to items and how they interact.
So is this podcast on the Internet of Things?
This podcast
it's part of it.
Part of the Internet of Things because there's data involved.
Boom.
And so the relation can be a person to person. So you can use technology to communicate and pass data back and forth. People to things to people,
okay,
or things to things. And that's one where the technology is really has like exponential potential in the future, is when things are communicating between each other. That's where you get the kind of that machine learning type of idea, the concept that, okay, now we can innovate without even the human hand on it. So one machine says, hey, you know what? Here's my data to you. And then the next machine says, okay, thanks for that data. Now I'm more efficient. And then together they improve and enhance whatever their role is or their job.
So like there are significant implications for artificial intelligence
Yes.
in the building upon the data that's gathered from this interconnectivity of things.
Yep. But when we talk about the Internet of Things from a consumer standpoint, a lot of people think about, okay, for instance, let's say my alarm clock goes off, and it's a smart alarm clock, so it's connected. And then it's connected to my coffee maker and says, hey, the alarm just went off. He's getting up. Start brewing that coffee or else he's going to come back to bed. And so that's the connectedness. Two machines talking to each other. Now, for me, it would be like, hey, don't turn on. He doesn't drink you. And then they would just go on with life. But
yeah, I still don't know how you make it to work in the morning, but that's a whole nother story for another day.
Yeah.
No coffee for Josh.
Yep.
But looking at it from a consumer perspective, that would be the coolest thing.
Yep.
Because it was one step in like 1989 when Americans got the ability to set their coffee.
Yep.
For
you got to put all the stuff in and then set an alarm.
But it is going to get to the point where I don't have to put grounds in there. I don't have to put water in there. I don't have to just set a timer.
You don't have to drink it. It'll just go
straight in like
somehow
a
you'll
coffee
absorb it.
IV. It's just going to be automatic.
And then, from there, like a lot of people now have smart watches. All right. So that's connected to your phone. There's data transfer there. But what if the smartwatch, through this connectivity, would also be able to communicate with other things or people and say, all right, I'm running late. So your smartwatch says, well, I know the calendar. I know he's supposed to be at his meeting, but he's still walking there. I'll send a quick text message, say I'm on my way. And so the ability for it to do things based on the data it's receiving. Or your car, the cars are getting smarter. Your car knows when it needs new oil, and it's like, all right, not only do I need more oil, but I'm now connected to your calendar, and so I'm going to go ahead and book a oil change for you and block that off in your calendar. And so the idea that this interconnectedness between inanimate objects is really the goal, is that it takes that human's ability and time to have to do all that stuff they're scheduling for themselves. Or the fridge, right? I would just talk about that, right? When we were shopping for appliances when we moved into our house, and we were looking at all the cool stuff in the expensive aisle before we went to our aisle to actually buy our fridge.
The real world aisle.
You walk down the cool aisle where I don't know who buys that stuff,
toys.
but it's over there, and it's like, okay, here's one that has a camera on the inside of the fridge and has an app. So when I'm at the store, I can pull up my app. I can then say, okay, I'm looking in my fridge. What am I missing or what's low? Instead of, which my process is to call my wife and say, hey, can you look in the fridge and tell me, are we almost out of milk?
Yeah.
Which is a very annoying process because I do about 6 times while I'm at the store. And so, she would probably be all in for this technology. So just look for yourself.
Now, when you were shopping for that fridge, if I recall you telling me the story, there was a Samsung fridge probably. Which means that the native app would have been very at home in Josh's world.
That's right.
And
I don't know if there's not.
I don't know if it was
iFrigerator.
The iFrigerator. Yeah, the Apple hasn't really jumped into the refrigerator business yet. But I really think of a really cool application, like you kind of mentioned, is the connectivity of your phone or your watch or whatever in your car. So like I drive a car from 2010.
Yep.
And when I get in and drive it, I feel like it's pretty modern until you get in a new car.
Yeah.
And new cars have crazy apps and technology, and you can start it from your phone and all these things. But have we gotten to the point where you can have your phone in your pocket and you walk up and your car knows it's you just by walking up to it because of your phone?
Do believe that there are some cars now that use your phone as the unlock and lock app, and the near field can do that.
That's pretty cool.
I think. Now, mine's a 2011, but it's also a Jeep Wrangler.
It's new.
But it's a Jeep Wrangler, so although it's a newer model or year, technology-wise, I don't even have automatic mirrors. I have to crank those things up and down. So I'm just guessing. I'm pretty sure I've seen that technology. So, but long story, that's kind of examples of when we talk about the Internet of Things from a consumer standpoint, that's where it's at. Forbes had an article, and this was a couple years ago, I believe, but they have an article we'll link in the show notes, and there's kind of talking about how this has been around for a while, and I know, Austin, we're going to talk about kind of when it first started this term, but they had a fact that in 2008, so this was, the iPhone came out in 2007,
yes,
I believe.
I believe so.
And so this was a year after the very first kind of heavily adopted smartphone came out. There was already more things connected to the internet in 2008 than there were people connected to the internet.
That just
so it's
blows
just weird
my
to think
mind.
that way back then
When
there
we
was
didn't
already
think
this.
there were like even that many devices.
Right.
But
Yeah, there was
were.
no Apple Watches out there. There was just the iPhone, a big square block of a phone that did a third of what's going on now. So it's been around for a while, and industries use this a lot. And Austin, you can talk about kind of that part of it, kind of where it started and why.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really hard to believe, but according to Investopedia, and we'll throw a link in the show notes too, the term Internet of Things was coined in 1999. That is like mind-blowing because, first of all...
Were you born yet?
I was 8.
Okay.
Thank you very much. But Kevin Ashton...
The guy from That 70s Show. Yep.
Yeah, Ashton Kutcher. Kevin Ashton, in an article... he worked at... Where did he work? Procter & Gamble, I think, is where he worked at the time. So he wrote an article, and he was describing really RFID technology and tagging and supply chains and tracking all that. So that's like radio frequency identification. And that is where that term, Internet of Things, came from. But like, it's such an umbrella term that we use today when it was actually kind of focused back then on something that we still use a lot today, but it's so much more than it was back then.
Yeah. So that the reason why the RFID was important back then was it's a way of tracking, right? Radio frequency, so they're able to see something from farther away.
So it was like inventory, movements, and stuff like that. So, first of all, I remember 99. I know I was young, but I do remember it. That's when our family got our first computer. And it was a Windows computer. It was white, and it had a huge, thick screen, and it was running operating system Windows Me. Windows Millennium Edition. Oh, it was cool. So... the joy of the internet in those days, dial-up, that was the good stuff. But it's so funny that we didn't really have Wi-Fi, but we're talking about the Internet of Things. But can you imagine all of these devices we're talking about, like running around with like a phone cord? Like you got your smartwatch with a phone cord.
Hang on, I got to sync my watch.
That's a lot of phone jacks in your house. I would say that would be a pretty jacked up
long extension
house.
As you walk around the house.
That's pretty jacked
up.
So, anyway, Josh, move past my tangent about dial-up internet because those were the good old days. Like, Mom, get off the phone. I need to get on the internet. Those were times. Tell us some examples. We mentioned some already, but some more examples of, like, Internet of Things items.
Yeah, so there's things that people wear, smartwatches, fitness trackers. Those are all things that people use for their own health and wellness.
Where's yours today?
Yeah, my watch is not on.
You're not wearing one.
It stopped connecting. So my $20 smartwatch that I've had for about 4 years now, I think.
You got your money's worth.
I got my money's worth out of it, but it stopped syncing, or it synced, but it wouldn't charge. So as soon as my battery was out, I could not recharge it.
Did you depreciate it over 4 years and
took
the 5 years of expense, $5 a year of expense?
The actual head, the watch head, is a normal watch, and I had to replace that battery as well, which was a normal watch battery. So it still works. I could wear it as a normal watch. This does not long. It's no longer smart. It's dumb now.
Maybe you'll get a Samsung watch now.
Yeah, they're expensive.
Oh,
but yeah, smartphones. I mean, those are connected to a lot of things. anything you see the word smart in front of is a good idea that it's probably a Internet of Things.
Unless you're talking about me.
Yeah. So light bulbs is an example that I think are crazy. So they have smart light bulbs.
Are they called Hue? Like the
there's
Philips
a couple,
Hue,
yeah,
I think,
that's their brand, and
they like have colors, and you can control.
But they
it from
also,
an app.
you have an app, and that's the key. And I'll get to that in a second. There's also kind of the hub, or the Google has their home thing. Alexa, there's Apple has theirs,
Don't
and so
forget Apple,
that's
Josh.
right. And that's kind of the central spot that controls a lot of these. So you can use one app to get control of a bunch of different smart things.
Exactly.
But the idea is they communicate together. So, for instance, I know they sell light bulbs that also have speakers in them, so then they can connect. So they're your Bluetooth speakers in the house to your, whatever your music device is. Or if I'm on vacation and I want to turn on and off lights to make it look like I'm home, or if I leave a light on and I'm gone, I could turn it off to save energy.
You can, and sometimes you can do that with like security systems with locks, automatic lock from your phone.
Yep.
You can put garage doors up and down. You can set your lights to be on a schedule while you're away.
Yep.
Which is incredible.
It's
I don't
crazy.
know how we got this way. There's also thermostats.
Those
are really cool.
smart thermostats
so, like,
are nice.
we have a Nest. So this is really funny. So my wife and I, a few years ago, bought our house, and we love our house. It's gorgeous and beautiful, and we love it. It is a house that reportedly was built in 1865.
Oh, boy.
No ductwork, no air conditioning. It's an old house. We have a boiler for heat and hot water. So we have a Nest smart thermostat hooked to our Wi-Fi, but no air conditioning.
It's not controlling anything.
And
it's
no
just telling
forced
you what's
induction
going on.
heat or whatever. So like our smart thermostat, it does work with our boiler, but that's all it works with. So like during half the year, it just sits there.
It's just telling you what the temperature
exactly.
is with no control over changing it.
That's the smart thermostat. The doorbells.
Doorbells are nice.
Those, so like the Ring, and I think Nest has their own.
There's a
doorbell
lot.
with a camera. And it pretty much hooks up to your internet, and you can talk to people. You can obviously have a record of who came to your door and all that stuff. My wife showed me this video on Facebook, because I'm not on Facebook, because I'm an old man. But she showed me this video that like someone she knows literally had the recording from their smart doorbell of someone walking up and stealing a snow shovel off their porch.
Snow shovel.
Like, that is really desperate.
Yeah, I mean, I know people have been taking packages, like when you have, a package shipped to your house, they're stealing those.
Snow shovel. First of all, we've had like 3. You might have had to use your snow shovel 3 times this year.
Maybe.
But who steals a snow shovel? They're like $10.
No, seriously.
It's not worth the risk. So anyway, that's my funny side story about the doorbells. But there's other things like, you were talking about the smart speakers, like Amazon Alexa, all those Google Home things that like control all these other things we were talking about. That's crazy. But another one is autonomous vehicles.
Right.
So then we're not there yet. And we had an episode, which we'll link in the show notes, where we actually talked about specifically about autonomous vehicles.
Yep.
But we're headed to the world where your car and my car, driving down the roads by themselves, Josh and I are asleep, or we're playing like Minecraft on our phones. They talk to each other. So Josh's car's like, "Whoa, bro, Austin's car's creeping up on me." And my car's like, "Whoa, you're creeping up a little bit on Josh's car." And they like talk without even interacting with us. Like, we're headed there. I think that's a pretty interesting feature. Yeah,
and with that, again, when we're talking about communication, we can communicate with our cars, whether it's the idea that, we need an oil change, so then it syncs to our calendar and finds the time to do it, or a car's communicating with another car, or the car's communicating with the road itself.
Smart
roads. So we're here in Ohio, and you always have to remind me, from Columbus to Marysville, there was a grant.
I think.
Yeah, there was a grant for them to kind of develop or build this smart road to try to test out kind of this technology. Now with 5G coming out, there's a lot more ability for communication that way. But the idea would be, like you said, is not only am I communicating, hey, my car's getting too close to another car, and the cars communicate, but within the road, it would say, okay, you're swerving off the road.
Yeah.
The dashes or the paint on the road, in a sense, are interactive to the car and communicating. Or if there's slippery, whatever, there's the communication to go with.
Now, you mentioned 5G.
Yep.
And I think that we talked about the slow speed aspect of things a long time ago, but speed is imperative when you're understanding the Internet of Things, especially when it comes to safety things. So cars, if a car is to be connected to the Internet, like the speed, you cannot have latency, what's called latency, which is the lag.
Delay, yep.
You cannot have lag. So when we get to this point where we're on the 5th generation of wireless internet,
We're
really
the 5th
cellular,
generation of G.
the 5th G. When we get there and speeds are 100 times more than we are now, which I can't even fathom because I think they're plenty fast, that is going to increase safety and allow this to be more scalable in technology that human lives are at risk. So, airplanes and cars and all of these things.
Yep. And so one other example before we move on is bathroom scales.
I don't use them.
Yep. So I had a regular bathroom scale at home, and I would step on. It would tell me how overweight I was. Now I have a Internet of Things scale, and so I can step on, and then it reminds me the whole rest of the day how overweight I am. And so that's the benefit. Yay! It can continually tell me
a Fitbit
how
scale.
It's the same idea. It's not a Fitbit one itself
Yeah.
because that's expensive, but
Yeah.
the same
Link
idea
to
is
an
I
app
have
on
an
your
app.
phone.
Yeah, I have an app, and then the nice thing is then though when it comes to the communication with that app, it can pull a lot more data and then trends.
Right.
So then maybe I just had a lot of donuts that day or whatever.
You got to put that in a note
you
to
can see
explain
that.
the spike.
That's right.
Yeah.
But the idea there is, that the connectivity there is available. So, but along with that, there's some problems. And the biggest one is security, right, Austin?
Yeah. Security risks are a real issue when you're talking about all of these devices being connected and all this information out there. So if you have a wireless network at home, you should really have a password on it. So a lot of people don't.
Right.
That's not good.
Yeah.
Because
unless you live in the country with
no one,
60 square miles around you,
who's
with nobody.
gonna sit in your driveway and steal your Wi-Fi?
But other than that,
but if you live in a place with other I know at my house, I have neighbors all around me. If I get on my phone and I look at the available Wi-Fi's, there are 10.
I always like the creative people when they name them,
I know.
FBI van. Have you ever seen I actually had that
No,
was
but
I think
so
that was
funny.
in the neighborhood I used to live in Indiana or somewhere, but they had one of the router's name was FBI van, and so I just thought it was creative.
It's really funny. Mine is the password and the name of it are what came on it.
Yep.
Which is really annoying for people because it's a really
it's
long
horrible,
password or whatever. But anyway, you need to have a password on your Wi-Fi, especially if other people are around. Because if people can just get on your Wi-Fi, then there are ways where they can access all of these things that are connected to
anything
the internet
connected
at
to
your
it. Yep.
house. And think about it's really weird if you're thinking about if you have a baby monitor with a camera that's on the Wi-Fi and you don't have a security feature on your internet that people can just get on and that's not cool.
Crazy.
We don't want to do that. Yep. So our advice to you as not security experts, this is just humans.
This is just
the
general
advice.
general knowledge.
Please put a password on your Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Now there was an example of that where a couple years ago there was a bot attack on some internet servers where it actually shut down a lot of the internet for a while, and they traced it back to this
FBI van.
Yeah, this virus that used those type of devices that were, and what they found when they went backwards and looked at this afterwards was, and these were cameras, so those, infant cameras and just those cameras people put in the houses, they had a password that they came with to protect them when you would try to log in and get to the settings. But no one changed the default password, which anybody that bought it had the same default password.
Right.
It wasn't randomized. It was the same password or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So they built this virus that then went in and logged into all those and then had each of these devices overwhelm the servers by putting in these requests on the servers that overwhelmed them. And there's a whole term for it. I'm not a tech expert, but in a sense it shut down these servers because millions of individual devices were requesting things from it at once.
Wow.
And this one virus, this one thing got these ton of bots, uncontrolled, these cameras that these innocent people didn't know were being used for this, but because they had the default password still on there, they were then at that point unwitting participants in this. So yeah, please, if you don't have a password, put it on. If you have a password that's just the default
for a device,
especially, you might want to switch that.
Yeah. Another risk is really safety. So we just talked about how cars are going to start being able to talk to each other and all of these things, but especially when human lives are at risk, safety is very, very, very key. And the quality standard when it comes to human life is perfection.
Yep.
So if there is any opportunity that this technology or this device that's connected to the Internet of Things and all talking to these other things, whether that be a car or medical stuff or whatever, if there's potential that it's going to fail, even if it's pretty minute or it only fails very, very, very rarely, it's going to be scrutinized like crazy. So that's a big risk, and the technology is never going to be perfect. But I think that even though we've had a lot of advancement in the last 10 years specifically, we're still to the point where there's a lot of room to grow.
Yeah.
And that's only going to get better over
And
time.
with the risk, those overlap. 'Cause obviously, just with things being connected, you want to make sure they communicate effectively and efficiently. But then anything that's on the internet can be hacked. And so if our cars are on the internet, and we saw this happen, is people were trying to disable cars that had this new technology. And so there's got to be safeguards put in place for that.
That just happened in my show, Designated Survivor.
Oh, yeah.
on Netflix.
They hacked it.
Hackers all over the place. Man. They were hacking like missiles and...
Is that show still on, or is it...
Josh has a touchy subject.
All right.
The show has 2 seasons from ABC, then it got dropped by ABC, got picked up by Netflix. They made a half of a third season and then dropped it again.
What? Half of a third season?
Yeah. I think they made a full season, but it was just a compressed one.
Okay.
So we're loving it. Don't get me started. I'm really having Kiefer Sutherland. He's an awesome guy.
Yeah.
So anyway, sidebar again. We have a lot of sidebars.
Sides.
That is okay. So another risk is data. So you obviously think of things like Cambridge Analytica with Facebook. Like, you put a lot of data on the internet on your Facebook account. At one point, there was an issue with data privacy and who had access to all of that. Well, all of these devices that we're talking about contribute data that largely go back to the company who created the product.
Yep.
So if you specifically think of things like, you use Google for everything. Mm-hmm. Google has...
They know everything about me.
Everything.
Yep.
So, yeah. How many times Josh walked to the candy machine? They know how many times.
Unless I leave my phone. Then they don't
Unless
know.
you leave your phone. Then you're off the grid.
Sneaky.
But, like, that's... Anything you use that's connected to the internet, that data is somewhere.
Right.
Someone has the data.
And, they have to disclose that, which is why everybody has to agree to those user agreements.
I mean, I read
through
every word.
Read it.
I don't do anything else. That's all I do is read agreements all the time.
Yes.
But no, in reality, all of us just click agree. Scroll down to the bottom, check the box, and click agree.
I do read 95% of user agreements.
Are you serious?
I'm not. You can ask my wife. She gets so mad at me.
My iPad just...
Your iPad's making a note.
Ask
my wife.
Say Siri.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah. You actually do?
I try to, if I'm signing an agreement, to read through it.
Josh, no wonder you don't get anything done.
I know. I am one of those people that when you're standing in line and they're like, agree to this, and I'm like scrolling through. Stop scrolling.
I really said that as a joke because I honestly thought no one read that stuff. Yeah. Man. So imagine
warranties.
You just moved. Man. You read every page of that mortgage document when you closed on your house?
Yippers.
Oh, my goodness. Well, now we know, Josh, you need help.
I do. Help. But guess what? I know where my dad is going.
That's true.
I do know where my dad is.
That's true. Well, in light of you needing help.
Yes. I sent it to Google, because they're very good.
Ethical.
They're good at what they do.
In light of you needing help, I'm going to help you out by making you laugh today, Josh.
Okay.
The dad joke of the week comes in jokes of 3.
Jokes of 3.
I marked 3 pages. 2 pages. There's multiples here. Josh.
Ready.
Why should you never call someone average?
Why is that?
Because it's mean.
Mean.
All right, number 2. Why do you call a lot of killer whale... Nope.
Oh, he said the answer.
No, I did not.
Okay. Let's start over.
What do you call a lot of killer whales playing musical instruments?
Go ahead.
An orchestra.
I was going to say that, but I don't like to take your thunder.
Oh, okay. Here's a good one. Why did the dad spider tell his son to go outside and play?
Why did he?
Because he was spending too much time on the web. That's actually kind of
that is a good one.
Considering
Times in
the
with this
episode.
one.
So,
that's good.
Internet of Things, web.
Yes.
Josh, what are the benefits to consumers of the Internet of Things?
So you just mentioned one of the potential problems is the data, right? That's also a benefit because there is a lot of data. And if it's used for the right reasons and used effectively, that is a benefit. So medical is a good example of that, right? Data, the medical information that I need to have transmitted quickly and efficiently when I need care, can be done through the Internet of Things. So if I have a monitor hooked up, so you have a watch, an Apple Watch, that has that cool heartbeat thing, and it can tell you weird things going on with your body, right? That new Apple Watch does that.
Out sometimes.
Yeah, it's crazy. But that data can be useful because it could say, hey, there's something wrong with you.
Right.
You need to get that checked out.
And it has actually saved lives already.
Yep.
And that technology is only getting used more.
Right. And so those things are there. And think about within the hospital, right? Monitors, those type of things that can be hooked up, and then that data can be sent to the right people and the right machines to interpret what needs to be done.
Yeah,
And
so that's
medically,
why
it's
that's
huge.
why like a doctor can just walk around with an iPad and be like, "Oh, I'm in
Here's where we're
Josh's
at."
room." Boop,
Yep.
click it, and I can see everything, or get an alert when Josh's blood sugar goes up because he ate too many donuts that was not allowed in the hospital.
I sneak them in.
Snuck them in.
So that's the big one. So data's not bad if it's used efficiently and correctly, right? So if I'm consenting to give my medical data for a reason, then it could be to my benefit. Cost saving. So if there's data being shared, there is less that needs to be realized and learned over and over again, so they can be more efficient. I was actually just this morning at a event that the local college was putting on about insurance. And they were talking about some of that new technology where you plug it in your car, or you have an app on your phone where it tracks your driving abilities or your driving record. Or disabilities, yeah. And so the idea there, though, is cost savings, right? They give you a discount if you're efficient at driving. They don't know that without the data. I could call them up and say, hey, I'm a very good driver. Give me a discount, please.
Yeah.
I promise you I'm really good.
Yeah.
They want the data. But then on top of that, the insurance company can then take that larger data from a bunch of people and say, okay, here's the age bracket, the type of people that are the safest or have the least amount of claims. Target them,
and when driving is safer and not safer, and yada,
so
yada, yada.
we'll add that to our actuarial tables because we don't want to lose money, nor do we want to go out of business. So we need to know how we're pricing different insurance amounts.
Right.
So the data there again saves money. Tailored options, and so the idea there is if they store data, next time I'm somewhere, that data can be useful to make my experience more efficient and better for me.
Well, and one thing that is evident in is specifically at like a grocery store. So I know like Kroger, if you go to Kroger and you have your Kroger Plus card, that's how they track you. You you buy all your stuff, you scan your Kroger Plus card, you check out, you're good to go. The next time you go, or even right there, they'll print off tickets for coupons, or they'll mail you tickets for coupons of stuff that you buy all the time. That's Internet of Things right there.
And then, again, with my integration, my phone knows where I go. Then it can make suggestions. Hey, if you like that place, here's another spot you may like. And so they can make it tailored to my experience. So if I'm in a new city traveling, hey, because you like these things, check these places out. You may like it.
I actually read that McDonald's is working on drive-through technology where there are license plate scanners in the drive-through. And it'll recognize if you've come in before, kind of what you've ordered. And they're working on technology and a platform that then gives you suggestions on what to order on the screen menu and stuff like that.
So in a sense, your plate tells them what to put on the plate.
Exactly.
Wow, interesting.
Now, I wonder how that works. So I am a bad citizen and don't have a front license plate. So they would be like...
When are we? Yeah,
it's June.
July, June.
Well,
so at June, you're a normal citizen.
I know.
Again.
I'm a normal citizen, but now I'm illegal.
Oh.
So anyway, I wonder if that would not give me my recommendation for my McGriddle. I like a sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddle with, I want the hash brown on the sandwich.
They do that?
They will if you ask.
Oh,
I usually have to do it myself.
Oh, yeah.
But it would recognize that that's what Austin's getting. Oh, so good.
So, and on top of that, adding to that is convenience, right?
Yeah.
So if it remembers what I did, it's convenient then. So like going back to your grocery store, especially as this technology advances, if my phone has my credit card tied to it, like you can now pay using your phone, and it knows my history of shopping, when I get in there, it's like, hey, look at this, look what we're doing. And it starts adding to your kind of shopping list what you need. And so the convenience of not having to track it.
Amazon is working out like preliminary cashierless grocery stores in like big cities.
Fill up your thing, walk on out.
Or just other stores. But yeah, you walk in and they know based on your whatever device you're carrying or whatever maybe you scan your phone at the door.
Yep.
That who you are, and then there are probably some sort of RFID tag on every piece of whatever in the store. So when you walk out, It knows that you walked out
Totals
with those
it up.
things, and it charges you automatically. You don't interact with a thing. You walk in, you grab a basket, and you fill up your stuff, and you walk out and go home.
Yep.
So we're headed there.
Yep.
Which is also going to save companies money on having to employ less people so they can probably just inflate their profits, which as shareholders is really good.
There you go. And the last benefit is traffic efficiency. So you think to, like we talked about autonomous vehicles, but just the communication of not even vehicles, but my phone. So going back to, I use Google Maps for traveling because it's the best map app out there.
It's not.
It's the Apple Maps has some problems. I'm
Not
gonna be honest.
anymore.
They fixed it
They fixed it.
because they use
They
Google
redid the
Maps
whole
in the
thing.
underlying.
I mean, I think they kind of do.
So
Why mess with something
either
if it's
way,
not broke?
I get live up to date traffic. So does a lot of the other navigations. But the concept there is that's the communication. That's the apps. So Waze is the other one. There's a lot of ones out there that say, okay, anybody using that app, we will track your speed.
Yep.
If you're not doing the speed limit, there's probably a reason, unless you're just some
They show it
old
as
grandma
red
driving
and
slow.
congested on your
Yeah.
map.
And so the efficiency then is people behind me say, oh, hey, let me reroute you
Right.
to avoid this. And in rerouting you fixes that problem sooner than had everybody kept falling into that and pushing that delay backwards. And so it's not only more efficient for me as a person coming up to that, but people down the road 20 minutes behind me will have less of an impact because of the people being diverted away. So,
And I think
very
there's
nice.
there's a lot of opportunity in like bigger cities. So we live in Findlay, and we do not have a traffic problem.
Christmas time we do.
It's very
It's
like
horrible.
Tiffin Avenue can get a little
10
backed
minutes,
up.
10
but
minutes to
it's-
get across town.
It's
Mad.
not that bad. But I think of the opportunity for like bigger cities where there's serious traffic issues where specifically with like traffic lights and stuff like that, machine learning can help all of these traffic lights to talk and feed a database full of data of when all these cars come, when the traffic lights need to be on and off for certain streets, and who's
or even
driving
making
where.
some one way.
Yeah.
So I know cities do that during certain events. Is a two-way street becomes a one-way street because of the need for traffic flow. But if that was all done through communication of things, then you could make that a little more efficient.
So what
and
about,
if your cars know, you're not going to have somebody accidentally going down the wrong way because
we
it
don't
knows not
want
to
to
do
go
that.
the wrong way on a one way.
Nope.
Bad news for everyone. So what are the benefits to business?
Well, the big one is data, obviously.
Data.
Data. So whatever,
I
whichever
always-
A sounds better to you. So data is more valuable to them than most other things because not only does that tell them what their current customers doing, but it helps them plan for growing their market share and getting new customers.
Data
And
equals
so
money.
Data equals money. So does data. So they both equal money. But the idea there is, I will be willing to go back to those insurance companies. I'll be willing to give you a discount for using my app because guess what I get? All that valuable data on you.
Which
and so,
has to be, the math has to work out in favor of the companies.
Right.
The company is not going to offer a quote unquote discount, air quotes on a podcast. Hard to do
they
that.
saw it.
It's not going to offer a discount if it's not going to more than make up for that. It wouldn't
Correct.
make any sense
Right.
to do that.
Yep. And then the other thing is logistics, right? And so if I have the communication, I have the ability to better streamline how I get things from point A to point B.
Right.
And so not only do I have it more efficient, but I can track. So if something goes wrong and my customer's calling saying, where's my stuff? I can tell them exactly where it is and tell them when it's going to get there.
Right.
And so there's no longer, well, I don't know, it disappeared in shipping. I don't know. I got lost. It's like, no, I know where it is.
Unless you're delivering
It's,
donuts,
yeah.
those get lost.
Yeah, well, there's just delivery charges involved. So those are the big benefits for business. But the other benefit for them is, as things advance and there's more connectivity, you could have something that becomes essential, right? So if I want all my things in my house to communicate, that central hub, whatever that is, becomes pretty efficient at doing that, and I don't want to switch from that. I don't want to start all over.
Yeah.
And so as things get more integrated, that network, so you go back to Apple, I mean, everything in Apple likes to communicate with each other. I don't want to leave that network of things.
It's a sticky, they
Yes.
call that a sticky ecosystem.
Right. And so that's the other, for a business, if you can be that stickiness, then, man, I'm going to not only get customers, I'm going to keep customers.
And that is good. That is profit in the future.
Yep. So, Austin, research, what do we got? What we got going on in the research
Yeah,
side
this
of
is
things?
kind of what I do. So, first of all, Josh and I are both going to plead that this is not an investment recommendation in any way, shape, or form, and that anything I say can and should be be discussed with your financial advisor to see how it fits your financial plan.
Yep.
But
we're just talking companies that are participating
yes,
in this.
These are not even saying these are great companies or great investments. These are companies that are in this space that have exposure to the Internet of Things. So a couple of them are, first of all, 2 Chinese companies. So number one, Alibaba. It's kind of like similar to an Amazon over in China. Huge company, tech company. They created an industrial Internet of Things operating system. And there's a lot of business to be done in China. So that is one opportunity. JD.com is another. It's another Chinese e-commerce company. They have Internet of Things retail projects going on, so specifically with retailers in China. So those are 2 Chinese companies, but then some European or American companies that you might be more familiar with. So think about shipping and logistics, and we talked about how that might impact that. So think companies like DHL. So I think that's German, the logistics company. They're yellow and red. Yeah. UPS and FedEx, same kind of idea, shipping and logistics. SAP, German ERP company, Enterprise Resource Planner. Big into the Internet of Things there and just tying everything together and keeping it all on the same page. General Electric is working on some Internet of Things projects. Some tech companies that we're familiar with here in the States, Dell, Cisco, Amazon, 5G company working on 5G, things like AT&T and Verizon. Thinking about how that speed is going to help the connectivity of devices. Google and Intel and Microsoft, those are obviously all tech companies working on connected devices and systems that work together. Salesforce is another one with their kind of they're working on their own client relationship management and stuff like that. That is all tied together. And another one, the one that's one of my favorites, is a small cap company called Manhattan Associates, based out of Atlanta, Georgia. And they work on kind of logistics and supply chain, and like omni-channel is the term they use, where it's in your store, it's in your warehouse, it's in your factory, it's all tied together where things are in the process and inventory and all of those things. It's a pretty cool thing. So that's definitely all Internet of Things related. You could also, make discussions that Ford, GM, Tesla, those car companies are all involved in this as well. So those are some specific companies in the space.
Or like we mentioned, Samsung with that refrigerator, right?
Samsung, Apple, I didn't even say that.
Yep.
But yeah, these companies, very tied to the Internet of Things. But there is a specific, and this is not a sponsored podcast in any way, but there is a specific Internet of Things ETF, so Exchange Traded Fund. The ticker is SNSR, and that is the Global X Internet of Things ETF.
Okay. I've talked in the past about ETFs are newer.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of them out there from relative to mutual funds.
They're gaining.
They are, but my point being, naming those things, because your ticker,
right,
the symbol, there's a lot of room out there, and I think, like, if you're the Internet of Things ETF, like, you could have gone a lot of ways with that. They missed the boat.
I put this together earlier today, and I just now put together that stands for sensor.
Yeah, but sensor, I mean,
sensor and Internet of Things.
Could have had a lot of cool stuff.
You could have had like IoT, something IoT would be nice,
right?
So opportunity for the future. Maybe we'll start our own.
Oh, I just going to start a business of naming things. Just name
like
it. Just tell me your company.
It's domain flipping, but it's ticker flipping.
Ticker flipping.
You just claim it and name it.
Yep. So again, there's a lot out there. If this type of investment is appealing to you, again, talk to your advisor about how that fits. Again, when we're mentioning investments, especially companies, owning an individual company, you're going to want to do your research first to make sure they're a good fit. But the idea is there's a lot of companies out there that you may not think as tech companies, but that based on the products, they are involved in the Internet of Things. I mentioned insurance companies based on those products. They're an Internet of Things based on that product or the app that they want you to use. Now, they're not fall in the tech category.
I mean, banks even.
Yeah.
Same thing. So then we're mentioning all of these companies, Apple and banks and insurance. I'm like, that's Berkshire.
Yeah, they have everything. So, so going back to, there's a lot going on there, but again, this is not a new technology. You talk all the way back to 1999, and even before that, things were connected. It's kind of more like the Al Gore of things, right? Because he invented
the internet,
right? But overall, we think this is something that's going to be around for a while, and it's just going to grow.
It's evolving.
More and more things connect. And then the debate is, what all needs to be connected. And I saw in one article I was reading, they were talking about smart dog collars. okay, great. Do I really need that? And maybe 20 years from now, everybody will say, yes, we definitely need that. But, who knows? There's a lot of things that maybe don't need to be smart. They can stay dumb and still be okay.
Like me.
Yep. So check out our free gift to you online. Go to the investeddads.com. We have a brief list of 8 timeless principles for investing. It's a free gift to you. It's just something we put out there to help you out. Check it out. It's free. Also, Austin, what can they do to help us on our podcast?
Yeah, we would love for you to help us grow this podcast and keep pushing out new content every week to you to help lots of people. But we need your help. So, number one, what you could do is subscribe if you haven't already. We would just love for you to listen every single week when we put these episodes out every Thursday morning. Also, you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you're on that platform. We would really value and appreciate that. If you want to hear anything specific talked about or have a question about something you've heard, do not hesitate to email us at hello@theinvesteddads.com, and we would love to hear from you, take your advice, and answer some questions if you have those. Also, if you really found this episode informative, don't hesitate to share it with someone who you feel would enjoy it, friends, family, whatever that may be. So yeah, thanks for being
and challenge.
Here.
Share it using some sort of connected Internet of Things thing.
Probably your phone, which is probably
really that's what it is.
Yeah. So in case you missed it, check out our recent episode where we discussed market volatility.
Up and down.
Thanks.
We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Invested Dads podcast. This episode has ended, but your journey towards a better financial future doesn't have to. Head over to theinvesteddads.com to access all the links and resources mentioned in today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and we had a positive impact on your life, leave us a review, click subscribe, and don't miss the next episode. Josh Robb and Austin Wilson work for Hicks & Zerker Capital Management. All opinions expressed by Josh, Austin, or any podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Hicks & Zerker Capital Management. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Clients of Hicks & Zerker Capital Management may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast. There is no guarantee that the statements, opinions, or forecasts provided herein will prove to be correct. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Indices are not available for direct investment. Any investor who attempts to mimic the performance of an index would incur fees and expenses which would reduce returns. Securities investing involves risk, including the potential for loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment plan or strategy will be successful.